Welcome back everyone to Monday's Bitcoin update video, where we dive into the Bitcoin price chart and have a look at how things are playing out for the cryptocurrency market. And finally, after 32 days of sideways corrective price action, we've seen Bitcoin reach these levels which we've been looking for and complete a very clean ABC correction, and already at these levels that we've spoken about for weeks now, seeing Bitcoin bounce from these levels. So today we're going to jump into what this means for Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market, and how the news events playing out around the world are impacting this price action, and how that's exactly what we want to see in a capitulation style event at such an important level for Bitcoin. So we're going to jump into all that today and more. So to briefly summarize for anyone that's new to the channel, what we've been monitoring here over the last 32 days for Bitcoin is this corrective structure that played out last year once Bitcoin had cracked this $69,000 all-time high, which is this blue line marked here. And that we spoke about in this corrective structure, Bitcoin did an ABC correction. Bitcoin actually found support at the bottom of this corrective structure, which it had formed after breaking out from this corrective range, and that this bottom ended up coming in at the top of this range here and the low of this breakout range, and that everything is playing out in this corrective structure, even the way that these lows are found, we've drawn reference to and spoken about how that is playing out today in this corrective structure, except on a much smaller time frame and a much shorter condensed correction. As the correction that played out last time in this structure took over 145 days for Bitcoin to find the low of its C wave, and a total of 236 days before Bitcoin actually regained these heights and then broke to the upside, and then we've seen this explosive move. And if we have a look at today's structure but on a smaller time frame, what we can see is that once the top had come in to where we found this, what we believe to be the C wave bottom at the same level, it's only taken 31 days for Bitcoin to reach this level, and we have seen the same structures play out. And again, like previously spoken about in earlier videos, we were looking for Bitcoin to find support in these same levels, which was at the top of this corrective range it had here, and at the base of the corrective range once it had broken out, which we have just come in for our C leg and actually found support in this region in the last 24 hours, and now seeing a very positive reaction and a bit of a bounce from these levels. And we've been tracking this here on the channel since this top pretty much came in, and spoke about how Bitcoin was likely to go in for a corrective structure like this. And now we are in those final stages where I believe that the C leg is in, even though it has taken a different direction in the way it broke down in this B leg here. Like we see on the right side, which is our example from this time last year, we see that once Bitcoin had actually swept the bottom here of the A leg, it bounced and then came in for that C leg, which gave us that low. And as you can see on the left side in today's price action on the 30-minute chart here, once we came in for that B leg, there was no sweep of the base of the A leg at any point here, and that we have plunged straight down into that same support zone that we were looking for. So what does this mean moving forward, and is this the bottom for Bitcoin? So I think as far as zones and levels go, this was the price we were looking for, around that $98,000 level that we've been speaking about for weeks now, and Bitcoin has reached that level perfectly, except the structure that it's formed has been quite different to the structure here on the right side, and that this entire B wave that formed here on the right side is quite similar to the way that this entire move here is actually played out, except we have reached the same levels. So moving forward, I think it's very likely that we could see more washing machine action like what happened here, when you even seen a new low set, or because we have reached those support levels already, we could see price shoot out here, fake out to the upside, and maybe double test this zone before then breaking out and forming similar structures like it did on the right side here. But I think what's most likely to expect is a little bit of chop and a little bit of confusion as the world events that are playing out right now continue to figure themselves out. There has been a strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, and the whole fear behind everything that is playing out right now is that Iran is going to crank the oil prices, which is going to bring up the price of energy and therefore increase the price of everything like food and everyday expenses, which, if you remember back to when the Russia and Ukraine war kicked off, the same narratives were being spun, and it actually ended up marking a local bottom. So I think as far as things go for Bitcoin, what we've seen is the level that we're looking for get hit, and at the same time we've seen major news events happen around the world in a capitulation style event, which should have the intention to try and scare the life out of retail investors and get them to sell their bags, spread fear of recession, and spread fear that energy prices are going to go up, and therefore that should tank the market. However, just like we've seen with the tariff news, which actually happened right back here on the 7th of April, it ended up marking the low of a corrective structure here, and now we believe we are at the end of another corrective structure, and we do see a big news event, which is intended to most likely scare the life out of the retail investor, similar to the same way that the tariff news event did back in early April, which then went on to mark our lows, similar to the way price is reacting today. Big news event intended to scare the life out of the retail investor, which at the same time has hit our support levels and may go on to mark the local lows. However, even in this time here, you can see once the worst of it happened, we did retest these levels. However, it ended up holding and then Bitcoin moving to the upside, similar to today's situation where we could see Bitcoin's price react in the same way, which would line up to like it did on the right side here back in 2024 from that corrective structure, when eventually once you did see that push off the lows, you did see a bit of a retest and this choppy price action until the market figured out which direction it wanted to go in and then broke to the upside. However, structurally, if we were to compare the way that price reacted back here in 2024 and the way it is reacting right here, we are still just in this moment right here. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a retest of the lows like the way things happened here, and then we shoot to the upside, but then we end up seeing more washing machine action and price actually roll over. However, I do think we are at the very bottom of this C leg, and we are in that support region that we've been looking for weeks now. And another thing that's also worth touching on is that what you can see here is that this blue fractal is actually pulled from this area from here, once that low got set, all the way until about this point here. And as we do believe that we are potentially in either a move like this right now, or we have found our low here at the support zones. One thing we'll be monitoring here on the channel is to see if price will play out like this blue fractal here, which is pulled from that corrective phase last year that we've been looking at. And so far what we can see, if we really zoom in close here, is that we actually have seen quite similar corrective structures form here in the way that we did break down, find support, bounce back up, and now we have found our lows in similar areas. And now we'll be monitoring to see if price is going to react like this moment here, and that if it continues to actually play out like this, what actually comes next is that final plunge, which actually completed the C leg. So we'll be monitoring this and the possibility that we actually could have already put in the C leg here and be at the bottom of this zone right now, and that the way price develops over the next week or so should give us further confirmation on where we are in a move like this, if we already have seen the capitulation and the bottom of this price structure, or if we simply still are just one more final plunge away from seeing that bottom actually come in. However, I do think we definitely see some relief at these zones, regardless of whether this is the bottom or not, which is providing some of the best buying opportunities that I personally believe we will get before things can kick off and move back to the upside again. So I'll keep it brief for today's Bitcoin video, but we are seeing everything that we want to see. We're seeing price get to the levels. We're seeing the news event supporting this, push price down to these levels, which is exactly what you want to see at the bottom of a corrective structure. And now we're at the stage where we get to wait and see how things are going to react from here. And if we do start to see price move to the upside like it did on the right side here back in 2024, I think it's pretty safe to say that once we do start to reach the top of this range again, which would be like on the left side here, Bitcoin making its way back up to the top of this B wave here, which is this purple zone we have marked. I think if Bitcoin is to march back up to those levels like it did on the right side here, that's a pretty good confirmation that what we're seeing in today's price action is actually the confirmed low, and what comes next from a retouch of these highs is the explosive move to the upside, which should get the ball rolling for not only Bitcoin but the altcoins like XRP here, which has come down and actually hit that black line that we spoke about in last week's XRP video, and we have bounced straight back above it, similar to the times that we did in all of these areas here. And now it's about waiting and seeing how XRP's price is going to react from these levels, but we'll go over all of that tomorrow in XRP's update video. So I hope everyone's not getting too scared about the price action, not too worried about the news that's happening around the world, and trying to just stay level-headed and understand that this is what we've been speaking about for over 30 days now, and that we have been waiting for price to get to these levels. So I'll be back tomorrow for the XRP update video. We'll touch on what this means for XRP and the broader altcoin market, and touch on how now we believe Bitcoin has reached this bottom, what price action we're going to see here for XRP, and how this could play out and lead to the end of the mid-cycle correction for XRP here, and potentially the next leg up for XRP, which should be the most parabolic move of this cycle. But we'll go over all of that in tomorrow's video. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe and leave a like on the video. It helps a lot. If you have any questions, drop them down below in the comments section, and I'll catch everyone tomorrow for the XRP update video.